I just bought a Yamaha WR and I don't even know if it works. This could be one bad financial decision.
It all began on Copart, an auction platform that sells used vehicles, usually that have been in accidents or just aren't working. I thought I'd have a scroll on the bike section, and this 2014 Yamaha WR 125X caught my eye. There wasn't much of a description other than that it had been stolen and recovered, so it wasn't in the best condition. It also didn't have any keys or an ignition barrel because it was hot wired. But hey, it didn't look like anything I couldn't fix. But was it really worth buying a bike not knowing if it'd even start? Well, I bidded on it and boom, I won for £2,000. A bit steep, I ain't gonna lie, but it is under market value, so I'll take it. So there was definitely room to fix it up and make some money. Fast forward a week, and on the 22nd of August, it was due to be delivered. But on my way home to see the bike, I crashed. Spoke about it briefly in the last video. Another video is coming about it soon. But anyways, a week after that, I got discharged from the hospital, and finally, I got to see the Ross Clark bike, bro. So, the fairings were broken and scratched, the headlight was falling out, the bike didn't have any keys or an ignition barrel, it was missing a fuel cap, the levers were snapped, the horn was bust, it had a bunch of rust, oi buzz, the tires were bowled, the battery was dead, and the windscreen looked like shit. So let's just say there was a couple of things that needed dealing with. So straight away I headed to eBay and began the search for parts. Found the headlight and rear end fairings, and it was as if by magic they appeared on my doorstep. If I were to take a guess as to why these specific fairings were broken, well, obviously they got into the ignition barrel, which is behind the headlight, and they probably couldn't be asked to unscrew everything like a normal fucking Homo sapien would do. And similar to the rear fairing, they probably broke that off trying to access any electronics they could find. And after that, the bike was looking a little less bruck up. No trouser belts holding on the headlight or any of that silly stuff. But this is just the beginning. She may look pretty, but we don't even know if this thing rides yet. So the next step was to turn it on, but how are we gonna do that? Well, basically, we're gonna need an ignition barrel and a key. Yamaha actually told me they were gonna charge me 300 buffs for a new set, and I wasn't trying to pay those prices. So I went back to eBay and picked up a fuel cap, ignition barrel, and a key for a sweet 75 buffs. Now that's more like it. Yes, they were a bit used, but they were in perfect working order, and also they're from Yamaha MT, shares the same parts. The more you know. Oh yeah, that looks clean, you know. There you go. Fuel cap, and it is matching with this right here. That goes in there. It's exactly the same as the MT, but that one's looking a bit better. This one's got like missing letters, but it doesn't matter. This one works. The key matches with this gas cap as well. And we're gonna have to do some work to remove the rest of the original one that's there. That's gonna be a bit techie, but we'll get there eventually. Let's see how that goes.
So these are the wires that start the bike, basically. And back there, the original bracket for the ignition barrel. And yeah, it's looking a little bit broke up. We're gonna have to screw into the original screws in the bottom of it and remove this whole part and then put on the new one, basically. I think that's gonna be a bit of a challenge, I'm not gonna lie, because they are security screws and they're not supposed to be really removed, but we'll work around it.
About 2 million years later, I finally got it off. Literally the most rago thing I've ever done. I didn't even want to film it, but it's done. However, it still didn't really turn on. The screen would turn on a little bit, but you could tell it was low power because the screen was really dim, meaning it probably needed a new battery. Brand new battery, old battery. We're gonna replace it now. And it's about to rain, so we're gonna do this as quick as possible.
Not even in here properly anyway, so it should be pretty quick. Wait. Screws to secure the cables to the battery, and it's raining. I feel it. This is very safe.
Just see if it turns on now though. It might not, because it's kind of loose. 3, 2, 1. Oh, hey, that's just straight
Battery power, baby.
Sick.
But we weren't in the clear yet. The bike wouldn't display the neutral light when it was shifted into neutral. There was also a switch missing next to the clutch lever that was responsible for allowing the bike to start in gear when the lever was pulled. And without it, we couldn't start the bike. The switch online was only £9 brand new, so I copped one and installed it. In the pouring rain, which was absolutely great, 10/10, rate the experience. But the bike was still not going into neutral, so we had to investigate further. I had to do a little bit of research for this one, but it turns out there's a little thing next to the gear shifter called the neutral switch. And the neutral switch is, well, it's in the name, is responsible for registering the motorbike's gear being in a neutral position. Apparently they can go bad, so let's take it apart and see if anything's wrong with it. So as you can see here, there's a mechanism on the end of the neutral switch that has a little spring pushing on the metal protrusion. Every time the bike went into neutral, there was a little metal piece that would make contact with the neutral switch, essentially telling the bike that it was in neutral. It probably sends a little electronic current through the wire to tell it it's in neutral, but this one was broken, so we have to replace it. I hope that didn't sound too complicated, but yeah, that was the situation. And guess what? The bike could now go into neutral, meaning it was time to start this thing. And it started first go, bro. You don't know the relief of having the thing just start up with ease. This was a beautiful moment in the dark, drenched in rainwater. The engine was sweet. So yeah, that is a huge goddamn relief. Another thing we needed to replace was the horn because it was sounding like some lost penguin. And this one was supposed to be pretty simple until it wasn't. That's the old one, and this is the new one, fresh. It works. So I think I just blew a fuse, because now when I turn it on, you hear it turn on, but the display isn't exactly there anymore. Luckily, it was only just a blown fuse. So open up the fuse box, threw a new fuse in, and that was sorted. But now that was done, it was time to spice things up. Sexy levers! So these have both snapped on the ends. So I thought, why not, instead of getting just the normal stock ones, let's get some sexy new ones. And these ones here are looking nice. I have these on the R3 as well, which is in a state. This will be in the video soon. But they've always done me well, so I thought why not slap them on here and freshen up the levers a little bit because these are looking a bit tired. The screws holding on the original levers were proving to be an absolute headache taken out. I literally had to saw one out and ended up scratching the lever holder. But not to worry because a little bit of masking tape, satin black paint, and it was as good as new. We're going to be using this satin black paint a lot more soon. And yeah, ideally I would have filled in the bumps and sanded it down, but this is just a quick and easy solution. And now we had a fresh pair of levers and it was just adding to the sexiness of the bike. So now the next thing to do is to restore the little windscreen that had been sprayed to with black paint. Fam, I don't actually get how whoever did this so bad. It's actually awful. It looks like the inside of a chimney or something. But yeah, anyways, luckily for us, it was fixable. I sprayed it down and removed any dirt and sprayed a little bit of isopropyl alcohol to remove some suspicious sticky residue that was all over the thing. And then it was time to sand it. Went for a high grit to remove the bulk of the paint and worked with high grits to get the little bits off to retain the finish of the see-through windscreen underneath. But to be honest, I wasn't planning on keeping it see-through, so I didn't even bother sanding it further. So it was time to wrap. And before you know it, it was looking fresh. It's not a perfect job, but it's disgustingly better than before. You can't even fault it. And since we were trying to improve everything about how this bike looked, it was time to address the subframe. This thing was looking like one chocolate Cadbury flake bar and I was not having it. I wanted to make this thing look brand new again. Brand spanking blood. So I started spraying a bunch of WD-40 all over it and started sanding with 80 grit sandpaper. The aim was to remove all the brown oxidized parts of the frame until it was bare metal. This would basically ensure that when it was painted, there would be no weird surface bumps under the paint and that the paint would stick properly. I covered up all the other parts of the bike that I wanted to avoid getting any paint on with some tissue and tape, and it was now time to primer the frame. This is used as a base coat and allows the actual paint that we're going to use to go over the top to stick better and last longer. Left about 15 minutes in between each coat, and now for satin black, Halford special cuts. When this goes on, it looks glossy at first, but give it some time to dry and you'll see the satin finish fade into it. And after 3 separate coats, it was done. Well, with the addition of a little bit of satin lacquer to help protect the paint. But the end result looked pretty damn sexual. Again, wasn't perfect, could have smoothed it over with sandpaper, but it looked good enough for me. And similar to the subframe, the swing arm looked like it needed some life. Now I know probably a lot of people would have looked over this and thought this is a bit extra, but I really wanted to make this thing look as stunning as possible. So it was back to it with the sandpaper. Exact same process as the subframe, no different. However, this took a little bit longer because there was a lot more to cover and a lot more to look out for. I also hit up a couple other spots around the bike that had a bit of rust and went over them. The aim was to make the bike as rust free as possible. And now all of that was done, basically every single thing was complete. And this thing was looking crazy. It looks good, it rides smooth. I say this was a job well done. She also got a brand new pair of tires that obviously I had to do at the garage because I didn't have the equipment to change the tires. But this thing was ready for the roads. I'll be posting on my Instagram updates on this bike, so make sure to go follow me there. And also subscribe. Trying to hit 2 bags, I ain't gonna lie. The first 1,000 really surprised me. I don't see why we can't get to 2. And also if you like this, we got another bike fixing series where we're fixing up a KTM RC. So go on my channel, click that, have a watch. And I've been Rayski, bless up.